Today we're talking about familiars and how I found my little familiar. This is Willow. Oh, she wants to go. Okay, bye Willow. Also, this is Salem. She is not my familiar, but she's gonna hang out with us in the video anyway because this is her favorite place to sleep. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Monique and this is Moss and Mushroom Studios, and today we're gonna be talking about familiars. I'm going to go over what a familiar is to me and how I found mine. I am a practicing witch, so I do believe in the concept of familiars, and I am going to be looking through all of this from a witchcraft lens. So let's get into it. So first things first, what is a familiar? Now, as with anything with witchcraft, you ask 10 witches what their opinion is on something and you're gonna get 10 different answers. So, disclosure, this is just my opinion on it. There have been entire books written about the concept of familiars, so I'm definitely not going to get into all of the nitty-grittiness of it, but this is just going to be a very brief overview about the concept of what a familiar is. And then later on in the video, I'm going to tell you how I found my familiar, or more accurately, how she found me. So a familiar is basically a spiritual guide that appears to a witch in the form of an animal. Could be any animal, could be any witch. And the main important thing is that they're different from a pet. They're not quite a pet. They are more of an equal and a spiritual kind of guide of some kind. The concept of a familiar originates from different kinds of folklore, and of course, different folklores and different witches of different backgrounds are going to have different relationships with the concept of familiars. This is mine. Basically, the way that I see it is a familiar is some kind of attendant, some kind of creature that is placed in your life for a specific reason to teach you a specific lesson and to aid you on your spiritual journey. There have been stories, especially when witchcraft was very, very demonized, that familiars are demons of some kind and a witch makes a pact with a demon for power. That is just not true. I don't believe in demons. Demons aren't real. None of that is true. That's just very silly to me. A familiar is an animal. That is the biggest thing. It's an animal of some kind. So it can be a cat, it can be a dog, it can be a rat, it could be a bird. Basically any kind of animal can appear to you as a familiar. But that does not mean that every single animal is a familiar. I have 3 cats and 1 dog. Only one of those cats is my familiar. The other ones are just my babies. And I love them. I don't love them any more or less. They're just different relationships. Another big distinction is that a familiar finds you. You don't find your familiar. Your familiar will choose you and pick you out. So for example, I went to the shelter and I picked out my dog. I love her. I picked her out. I was like, this is the dog for me. We have a very special bond. She is my child. She is my baby. But she's not my familiar. My familiar found me in a very specific way. And I believe the way that she found me also signified, hey, I'm your familiar. I found you and I'm showing you in a very specific way, which I will get into later in the video. I also believe that familiars are here to walk on our paths with us and to help us along the way and to teach us lessons. So in a nutshell, that's what a familiar is. And yeah, let's get into how I found Willow, how I found my familiar. So I have a garden in my front yard. It is my happy place and I love it. In this garden, I had a flower pot and I turned this flower pot over and buried it halfway in the dirt. I did this because I wanted to catch frogs. I've read online that if you do that, it creates a little shady haven for frogs, and if frogs get too hot, they can like crawl in the flower pot in the shade. It's nice and cool because it's a clay flower pot, and you'll hopefully be able to like catch toads. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to catch toads. Like I love them. I want them. I want them in my garden. So I did that. So that was the intended purpose of the flower pot, was to catch frogs. And instead I caught a willow. So I have this big window that kind of overlooks my garden, and I have my table there and I drink tea there every morning. It's kind of my routine. So as I'm starting my routine, I'm passing by my window and I literally do a double take. I'm like walking and I go like, screech, because I saw a little ball of gray fluff in the flower pot. And I was like, that is definitely not a toad. Oh my God. Is that a cat? Is that a cat in my flower pot? So I open the door very carefully to go outside. And I'm expecting this little kitty cat to run away because we have a lot of stray cats in the neighborhood and a lot of feral cats in the neighborhood. It's a big problem here. There's just tons of stray cats and it makes me really sad because I want to care for these little kitties, but most of the time, especially when they're young like this cat was, they will run away. They get scared, they're not used to humans, they will see you and they'll bolt, which is what I was expecting. So imagine my surprise when I walk outside and I peek my head over to look at this little kitty cat, and she peeks over, looks up to look at me, and we lock eyes. And then she gets up, walks right over to me, flops down, and lets me pet her. I was shooketh. I was completely astounded that this cat not only did not run away, but she came up to me. She walked up to me, laid down, and let me pet her. And she was loving the pets too. She was just like, oh yeah, I love pets. She was vibing. Immediately I go, this is my cat now. This is my cat. I need to protect this cat. I love her. I would die for her. This is my cat. So I very gingerly went to see if I could pick her up, because it's one thing if a cat lets you pet them. It's another thing if a cat lets you pick them up. But she let me pick her up. I just lifted her up and she went limp and she was just like, merp. And I picked her up. So then I'm thinking, I'm panicking a little bit because I have this cat in my hands and I'm like, I can't just throw her inside. I cannot just put her in my house because I have a dog and my dog is very curious, and I have two cats and one of my cats is very territorial and mean. This one, she hates other cats. I'll say one. So I have this cat and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? So I run across the street to my neighbor's house with this cat in my arms. And I'm like, hey, can you just like hold my dog while I throw this cat in my bathroom? I found this cat. And she was like, yeah, okay. And at this point, Willow did wriggle out of my hands and she kind of like trotted away. And then I was like, wait, no, kitty, come back. And she came right back to me. That's the thing, is that she kept coming back to me. Even if I would put her down or if she would wriggle out of my hands, she would always come back. And that was kind of my first indication that this cat was very special. Well, second. The first was that she let me pet her. No, sorry, third. The first was that she was in my flower pot. A cat in my flower pot, that is a sign. The second was that she let me pet her. The third was that she kept coming back to me. And I was like, this cat is special. This cat is very, very special and I need to protect her. So my neighbor watched my dog while I threw this kitty in my bathroom. And then I'm panicking because I'm like, oh my God, I have a cat in my bathroom. How am I going to explain to my partner that we have a new cat? He's in Costa Rica, by the way. He is not home. He is in Costa Rica for work, and I have this new cat. Also, at this point, I'm very ill. I'm very sick. I have like some kind of cold, some kind of bug going on, so I'm sick while all this is going down. So I have this cat in my bathroom and we're just vibing. She's hanging out, she's rolling all over the place. I'm petting her, she's purring. She is so dirty, she's so skinny, she's so scrungly. I'll put in a picture of what she looked like. She looked scrungly. She was a little goblin child. Like, so scrawny and just, she was missing like most of the hair on her neck. She looked a little fucked up, if I'm being honest. But she was also the most beautiful cat I had ever seen in my life. So I did do my due diligence and I thought, this has to be someone's pet, right? She's too sweet, she's too kind, she's too comfortable around humans. She has to be someone's pet. So I posted in a few of my neighborhood forums. I posted in my neighborhood app like, hey, did anyone lose a kitty? Here's what she looks like. Here's the picture. And I did wait to see if anyone would claim her. No one eventually did, but I did try. And then of course I had to take her to the vet because she's my cat now and that's what you gotta do. You gotta take him to the vet. And I did look to see if she had a chip. She didn't have a chip. But what she did have was a lot of fleas and a lot of worms. She was a very sick little kitty. After getting her some medicine, I do bring her back home and I'm like, I have to nurse this kitty cat back to health. Like, I need to get this cat healthy and then I'm gonna keep her because she's mine. I feel so connected to this little cat and she's my baby now. And then I named her Willow. The name Willow doesn't really have any special significance. I just really like the name Willow and I thought it fit. So at this point, I throw her in my room. And then all of the other animals are in the rest of the house because, again, this one, very territorial, kind of mean. And it's important when you're introducing new cats to introduce them very slowly. That way it just prevents any kind of fighting. They get used to their smell. It's a whole process. So me and Willow are both sick in my room. And we spent like a solid week in there. Plus I didn't want Willow to get the other cats sick. I didn't want her to give the other cats worms. I didn't want her to give them fleas. So we just kind of quarantined in my bedroom for about a solid week. This was the thing that really cemented the fact that Willow is indeed my familiar. So I had to give her medicine in a syringe, and I had to kind of like squeeze it into her mouth, which she hated. I'm not sure if you've had to give a cat medicine like that before. It's the worst. They hate it. I've had to do that with Salem before. She would run, she would hide, she would hiss. She hated it. So I kind of steeled myself to get prepared to do that whole process with Willow. And it was kind of crazy because I would give Willow her medicine, and what I would do is I would kind of like cradle her in my arms and kind of hold her in place, and then I would slowly administer the medicine. And she trusted me to do that. And every time I'd have to give her her medicine, she would just kind of resign herself and just like allow me to do that. She trusted me so implicitly, this tiny little cat who didn't know what was going on, but trusted me to give her this medicine. And that is when I decided, oh my God, this is my familiar. Like, she trusts me so much. She found me, and I trust her. I need to trust her, and I need to allow her to teach me things, and I need to allow her into my life and into my spiritual practice. And slowly but surely, she got healthy again. I introduced her to the rest of the cats, and now she's part of our little family, and she's my absolute baby, and I love her so much. Isn't that right, Willow? You're my little baby. Oh, you don't want to be picked up, do you? No. Okay. So that's the story of how I found my familiar. I think it's a really fun story. I love to tell it at parties. I love to call her my flower pot cat, and she's my absolute, I love her so much. I would love to know if you have a familiar, if you have any experiences with the familiars, please tell me. I would love to hear all of your guys' familiar stories. Also, I know this is kind of like a shorter, more chill video. It's just me talking to you guys, but I am deep in the throes of Ren Fair planning, so I will be doing more exciting videos soon, especially once I get to Ren Fair and I start doing Ren Fair vlogs, so do stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little chatty story time video anyway. That's gonna be it for me today, guys. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you, bye!